Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everybody. And I hope you enjoyed the gala dinner last night. And congratulations to the award winners. The organizers are very generous on timing, so I think we will give the panelists a chance to present their cases, as well as the audience to participate in the discussions. If you have any questions, comments, we will make it as interactive as possible. So whenever you wanted to comment on something or ask questions, one of the panelists, then please do at any moment. So it's an open discussion. Yesterday, most of the speakers and the presentations almost touched everything related to business continuity. And what would be the focus for this is basically the practice of it, because sometimes it's good to hear put nice plans, nice thinking, but when it comes to practice, this is where you will see challenges. So we have a very diverse functions from different industries, as well as from geographical diversity. So this will enrich the experience and the discussion as well, from bringing from practice point of view. So we're talking about cases. So I would give the panelists a chance to talk about their case, 5 minutes each, and then we can start the discussion further. So Margaret, you can start.
I still feel that the biggest challenge is just educating employees in general, and that can start from the person who just walked in the door today all the way up to the executives. And I think the biggest thing that we need to be looking at is how can we incorporate various types of training along the way to make it more embedded within our organizations. So some suggestions that I would have is, I don't know how many organizations have new hire orientation, and if so, maybe including a one-page handout in there just to talk about the program, maybe provide the URL for where your information might be stored on your intranets. Give them some key phone numbers, because that very first day could be the day that there's an incident, and they might need to know a critical number to have added to their phones. Another thing that's very common in the United States is we are required as employees at all various levels to take annual compliance training. And it depends, for example, on if you're a manager, that you take certain courses to ensure that you're knowledgeable on the HR policies related to employees. If you work in a publicly traded company, we have to sign off on certain things to let us know that we can't trade our stock during windows of when it's closed, because earnings are going to be reported. So you may want to talk to your legal departments if you have this type of online training that all employees must sign off on, and see if you could include business continuity in that module training. And I understand when we talk about trying to train the executives as well. That is always going to be a challenge, because let's face it, you could have a half hour or an hour scheduled for them, and let's face it, that doesn't necessarily going to mean you're going to get that full allotment of time. So you need to be agile in trying to get your training across with them. And I think that's important, to try and get your message across, whether it can be in a simulation or trying to educate them on things. And I think it's also valuable to still have a steering committee, because there you might not get the C-level people in your organization there. However, you're going to have their designated, appointed representatives in those meetings, and hopefully they're going to channel your communications of information back to those C-level folks. And I still think it's okay if you see a C-level person in the hallway, stop them for a minute and say, hey, just wanted to let you know we're doing X. Because that may be the best way that you can also try and let them know that you're working on something that's critical. Another way to get the executives to own a part of the piece of the pie, as we say, that's a common expression in the United States, is identifying the critical applications within your organization, because ultimately all the critical applications tie back up to an executive. And if you start doing application testing and they have to sign off on the results, that's another way to get them educated about the process. As well as making sure that maybe once a year, trying to get time with them or designee from their department to say, these are the plans that ultimately you are responsible for. Because if a disaster happens, it's not my responsibility to ensure that a department has a plan and it's well documented. I'm just the channel to provide them the tools, methodology, and templates to make sure that they're documenting plans. If they're reviewing them and signing off on them and they see how well their departments did, then that's another way of them understanding that we're in good shape or we're in bad shape. And try and ask them to maybe participate in the simulation. I know that's a challenge because of their busy schedules, but it's another way to get them to try and participate. I don't expect them to stay for a half a morning session, but if they can at least stop in, see the employees that are there, what they will do is when they see those employees throughout the course of the next few weeks, they'll probably stop and ask them questions, and that's another way of funneling that information back to them. So those are some suggestions that I have.
Hi. Hello. Hi. I just agree with Margaret. Information like awareness and education are an important tool to take business continuity management. But I would like to differ on one from my experience. It has been learned that you'll have to create awareness not only among the senior executives, but also among the middle management and also among the employees at the lower ranks. Because everybody should pitch in the event of a disaster. Like from my previous experience, how we have done it is like we leveraged the help of HR to identify who all are interested in learning about business continuity, and we showed them the positives of learning this process and how it will help them in taking their career forwards. So we identified the people who are supportive of this, we identified the fence sitters who are neither on this side nor on that side, and we identified the people who are not at all interested in taking business continuity forward. So we just took in the champions, we showed them greater visibility among the management, created visibility among the lower ranks of the employee. This created the fence sitters to move to the people who are interested. So we promoted the champions and we promoted the fence sitters also. So naturally, the people who are not satisfied with this process either leave the company or they just join the people who are interested because it creates more recognition for them. This way, you create interest among all sections of the employees to pitch in during a business continuity or pitching in terms of an emergency. See, emergencies can not only be specific related to the organization, but it can also be a community, like a society-related disaster. For example, the tsunami. So everyone needs to pitch in. So the experience that we have learned is the HR department is very much important during a disaster. As Mr. Ramesh was saying yesterday, like you're dealing with an emergency, the senior management calls you, that creates another emergency. So when dealing with a disaster, the HR has to provide a community support system wherein they know that their families back home are safe. So only then the first responders will be more inclined to, how many of you will work without pressure if you know your families back home are not safe? No one. It's very negligible. So from my experience, say the HR department is more important in running this initiative forward, more than from an IT perspective. I take this initiative, but from my perspective, HR is the overall driver of a business continuity initiative in terms of ensuring its effectiveness and taking it to a more mature level.
I think in NCB Capital, the first thing that, we look at here is to change the paradigm, the mindset, okay? We look into business continuity as an investment rather than a cost. This is very important to set this mindset among all the senior management, because this will ensure that you get the budget that you need. If we get this type of mindset, then this will pave the way for you to do a lot of things. We have been working in a long-term program now this is the 5th year. And I remember the first thing, as I said, we set the right mindset to look to business continuity as an investment, not as a cost. The first step we have done is to set up a governance model for the entire business continuity. The governance is an essential part because it will ensure get involvement from different senior management type, and at the same time it will ensure the continuity and sustainability of the program. In that governance we had the CEO as a leader, the board give the direction. We have an internal audit also looking to the auditing the program. We do have compliance involved as well. We have the legal. We have different representative from different business line. So we ensure there is a frequent meeting. We started like a quarterly meeting at the beginning. Then we moved like to twice a year since the program has reached its maturity level. So this governance give a direction, decision making, about business continuity. Now we ensure everybody gets involved, so it is not just my responsibility to drive the program. Everybody is in that program is responsible to ensure we reach the objectives of the business continuity program. As I mentioned yesterday, you need always to challenge the way you are doing the business continuity. And this is always will require you to be more innovative, to think of a new idea, to invest more on the program. We use like business continuity also to promote it in a different way. I mean, this required your involvement with your marketing team. Definitely, nothing is free. Okay, the more you want to do, the more you will spend. But the more return you will get back. We started from the scratch. We educated the entire departments, the people, 300 people were getting the required, awareness. This type of awareness, we do so many things. We started with like the Business Continuity Awareness Week every year, where we have, a big booth for the marketing. We put like a big, banner that's about Business Continuity Awareness Week. We have also, put some LCD screen and plasma in the building, in the entrance. We put some movie for business continuity. We translate it to Arabic as well as a subtitle. So we make some, action during that week. We put so many flyers, okay, for departments. When we did the flyer, it was the idea is to let the people own it. So, for example, we came to the security division, and we said, okay, we need to give a snapshot of your BCM, or business continuity plan. And we have always, like in the first page, we put the division head picture and let him put some statement about business continuity. When he see his picture and or photo on the flyer and everything talk about BCB, he feel he's more involved. It is his own baby. We don't promote ourselves as a BCM. We promote the business. The same thing at the beginning, we also did some flyer also, and we put the CEO photo or picture on the flyer on the first page. And this give like the leading direction that I'm as a CEO, it is important for me, the BCM is very important. So other will follow. So we took each division head and we give him his own brochure with his photo, okay? When everybody saw this, we distributed to all staff, and during this awareness week, then everybody followed. He said, if my boss is talking about BCM, why not I'm getting involved? So this is one of the idea. They watched the video as well. We did also some awareness, questionnaire, where we ask like 10 questions, okay, about our BCB in general, about the fire drill, about the, communication, and let people like fill the questionnaire, put it in a box, and we do a withdraw on prize, like, and we give people some like, gifts at, if they win. So this keep like the momentum going. It's keep everybody, create a big fuzz about business continuity. This is in terms of, also we do a newsletter. We send it by email, and we put on the first page the CEO, he's talking about resilience and, BCM, and we put some article on it about different department, about the BCB. So this creates a lot of promotion for the program, which is, I believe it is quite important. Beside this, we do also some session, like a 30 minutes. We keep it very short because people are too busy. And if you send like a long 2 hours or 1 hour, nobody will share. And also we use different alternative when we schedule. We said, okay, this is today, we have like 30 minutes from 9 to 9:30. If you cannot attend this, then you come. There's one other one, 10 to 10:30. There is other one, 11 to 11:30. And so we keep this 30 minutes in the whole day. So I found like some people, they show like 6 people in the first session. The next session, there's 15 people. The session after, there's 20. So it's keep flexibility for the stuff. So nobody. Exactly. And nobody has an excuse. Said, I had a meeting, I couldn't, And we do it like during that week, like maybe Sunday and Wednesday. So it is always we are available, and we will keep it very short. So this is just in regard to how you create awareness and promotion. We'll come to the other points later. Yeah.
Just an overview. So
thank you.
Kush.
Hi. Good morning, everybody. While I agree with Vinoth, Margaret, and Khalid in respect of getting the right mind share of the audience for making them understand the importance and criticality of business continuity, what I tell my clients and what I tell my stakeholders in the BCM is that business continuity is like an insurance where you're riding a Harley Davidson with a helmet on, which is similar to those ones which you see on the construction sites, the yellow ones and the red ones, the very plain, simple, which covers basically the top part of your head. But the part I want to say is that the moment when you wear such an helmet and ride a Harley Davidson at 100, you're sure that you will not get caught at the next crossing by the policeman because you're adhering to the law. But tell me, if you're wearing the same helmet and driving at 300 miles or 400 miles an hour, and you get into an unfortunate accident, a situation of an accident, then at that point of time, it's not the yellow helmet which is going to save you. It's the proper helmet, which is the customized one, which probably covers your head, which covers your face, which has a shield. So what I'm trying to tell you people is that the BCM framework has to have the resilience of the second type of a helmet, not the first one. Because first one is ensuring that you only adhere to the law. First one is only ensuring that you will not get by the regulator, you will not get caught by the internal auditor or anybody. So your management, in your management reviews, you're in line with your boss. But at the same point of time, should an unfortunate crisis happen, are you sure that this kind of a framework will help you? Maybe not. So that is what and the way I tell this to you have to, for proliferating the aspect of business continuity management, you got to connect with the senior management, middle management, and the person right at the you're right on the ground, on the front office, in a manner where they understand the difference of the resiliency, where the aspect of whether you're doing it only for regulatory purpose, or are you addressing the aspect of risk and uncertainty in its entirety? One. Second is the aspect that when you are doing this, especially in the, well, let me talk about the aspect in the insurance industry. Now, today, what do we have? Today, we have insurance being offered in multiple portfolio platforms, meaning a bank is offering banking products, insurance products, private wealth management, property management, advisory services. So you have a specific field of specific requirements of the respective industry, respective product, respective services, which get governed by their respective internal guidelines, statutory guidelines, and then how do you ensure that that the aspect of business continuity is maintained? Now, now talking about the aspect of business continuity, now what happens is that in the melee of today's in the melee of getting to the your sales margin, getting to the maximum sales targets, and your adherence to the basic minimum standards for internal compliance, you tend to forget that at the end of the day, the business continuity is something what you're doing for your own self. So Margaret mentioned that you need to proliferate that when you're doing this kind of an exercise, you are doing it for your own self. Yeah. One. Second is that the moment you tell them, everybody believes, everybody understands that's what's in it for me. So that means the moment you say that, okay, you are in a job, should something happen, unfortunate event happen today at your primary employment site.
And that's what we wanted to see, the management support. Thank you guys for the introduction. It's the management support. It was most of the discussion yesterday is about management support, and they, of course, they will support to have resiliency. They will support to do contingency planning and business continuity planning and all that stuff. But when it comes to budget, and that's the challenge, you will see all the support you need from them. But when you come to them, and now most of companies, most of organizations, and the budget time. My question to you guys, how did you manage to sell the program? Khalid have mentioned that it's an investment, and that's how we were able to sell the management to spend the money, because BCM, it has a lot of costs in terms of putting facilities, infrastructure, technologies. It is cost a lot of money. It's not just something in paper. So most of the BCM practitioners face this difficulty. They say, yeah, I'm getting everything, but when I go and ask for spending to put some facilities, infrastructure, technologies, and all the arrangements, and the challenge is that this is for BCM use only. It's just sitting idle, waiting or hoping that the disaster never happened. And that's the biggest challenge. So I would like to get an opinion from the panelists, and if somebody from the audience as well, please feel free. So Margaret, you want to touch on that?
Thank you. I think there's many ways to slice and dice this. If you really look at the annual budget for a business continuity program, it's not as expensive as some of the larger technology divisions within your organization. So primarily, if you look at what supports BCM, it's staff. Yes, we do have some tools, but they are not big dollar items. So I'm just going to say, if you were to look at everything from soup to nuts, not including the salary, it's probably you know, maybe $1.5 million if you were to look at, you know, I'm going top of the line here on tools and support for technology. So that's one way to try and size yourself up to the other departments within your organization. And another way to look at it is, you're right, we're spending time, money, and effort from all of our employees for hoping for something to prepare us that never happens. However, at least in the United States, for the past 6 years, I've been providing information on how we are prepared to help reduce our insurance premiums overall for our organization. And because we have had good continuity programs in place in the various parts of our organization, that actually has saved the company a lot of money. Another way to look at it is, executives tend to think of the big gotchas that are going to happen, the tsunamis, the earthquakes, etc. However, if we track all the little things that happen throughout the course of the year and how well we responded to it, that starts to save the organization money that's just not as tangible as looking at the bottom line of how much it costs for a large disaster. So I think it's also in our best interest to share with the executives how many incidents we help support throughout the course of the year, because that is also helping to show the value and the significance of our contributions to the organization. If something minor does happen and you need to transfer workloads from one city to another, or you need to transfer call volumes, that's actually saving the company money. And the other thing that I've been starting to do is, I know when I've done business impact analysis, it's hard to actually sit down and ask someone, how much are you contributing bottom line? So eBay, as I said yesterday, owns about 40 companies in total. And so what I've been starting to do is just track the overall annual financials for those organizations. And that's then when you're just taking the number and dividing it by the number of days, hours, etc., and you can get a number, might not be the exact one, but it's something you can tell the executives that that company contributes, I'm saying $10,000 a day. We had this incident. We actually ensured that they were still able to contribute $9,000 a day. And that starts to speak volumes to the executives.
Yeah.
Hi. Margaret already spoke whatever I have to speak. See, another way, like looking at it from a cultural perspective, like you need to show, like everybody likes to be in business. So you need to show comprehensive evidence or objective evidence to the management. Like she was saying, you need to track all the incidents that happen throughout the year, show them the amount of money that you have saved by contributing to those incidents, and showing the competitive advantage, like, okay, this has happened, this is how we have responded, and what is the competitive advantage that we have given? How has it helped increase our market value? So nowadays, I think every business...
But is it a belief, or it's a regulatory requirement, or an international partner who's enforcing this? I mean, what makes the management say they sign your budget for the BCM?
Many a times it is regulations. Like coming from the industry, many times it is regulations, so they are forced to do it. See, even the Central Bank of UAE forces you to have a business continuity in place. So you need to, at least for filling up the checkbox, you need to have some program in place for a business continuity man. But in places, organizations wherein there are just 3 or 4 people, in that case, like you need to show them the significant advantages it has got. See, people are the organization's greatest assets. So if in the event of an unwanted incident, like how are you going to manage that? So if tomorrow you lose your competitive advantage, you lose some risk of life happens to the person working there, you need to pay for his insurance. And if you have a plan in place, how it will help you in saving all those costs. This is for small organizations, but for big organizations like banks or financial houses, so they sign it because of a regulatory reason. She was saying like you need to comply with an annual regulation. So they will be signing it off. But for smaller organizations, you need to show them board that yes, this contributes some value towards the business goals.
Okay.
That's how I look at it.
Got it. Capital, investment, trading.
Actually, I would be surprised if we still have in the planet someone who think the business continuity is not important today. So I think the question is to which extent we need to spend. Shall we spend like 100,000 or 1 million? So to answer this question, I think it depends on the the regulation, okay, where is the business, is operating. It depends on the culture, it depends on the, legal issues. So sometimes it's a regulation issue. If you operate in, in our case, the Capital Market Authority, okay, they are asking for a business continuity, they are auditing business continuity. But how you get the approval, I mean, from 100,000 maybe the first year to 1 million the next year? That's, I think, the question. You have to look to your BIA in regular way, okay, and see where is the, the risk and what is the impact on the business. In financial services, it's very easy because every second is count. If we don't have like a communication, then we cannot trade. Then every second we could lose 100,000. So I think if you quantify this, then you will see that you can save the company a lot of money, okay? You need to look to every incident and use it for your benefit. Okay, so during the year, there must be some communication failure, there must be some power outage, there must be. So take that opportunity and start documenting the case and go and share it with the SMT, with the board, see what is the value of business continuity, because we do have an alternate site, because we do have a plan.
So you want to scare them.
Exactly. And
make
no,
them
show
always
them the benefit. Yeah.
Don't sleep at night thinking about what happened, that might happen to them. Huh?
Exactly. In our also company, we do have so much business doing with partners, with institutional clients. And like in Europe, in US, even in Middle East. And now, the part of the due diligence, they came and said, okay, if you want us to sign with you or invest with you, we need to do this BCM due diligence. So they went, like, I remember the last one was one of the largest US company. And we went, I think, for the last 3 months, just talking about business continuity.
All right.
Okay, so what we do, I took this as an opportunity and start saying those clients, I said, okay, this client has like 100 million. So I make it like, present it to the board. I said, look, we have acquired like 10 clients, total asset under management like 50 million or 100 million. And part of this deal was the due diligence of the business continuity. Okay. If we don't have business continuity, you will not get those clients.
Thank you.
So this will show, like, as an investment, okay, as part of the business.
Kush, I think in your case, you are more doing also consultancy, and training. So you're more focused on convincing others to create business for yourself, right?
No, you see, one is the aspect of, you see, if your integral factor is correct, the business will come anyway. Where I see the budgetary approvals coming from the various aspects of the management is that today managements are realizing that some part of it is the regulator-driven requirement. Second is the aspect is the customer-driven requirement, where a customer having large stake with you is wanting to know that what is it in for me if something goes wrong. Okay. And the third and the probably one of the important one is that the smart managements are doing things by learning from somebody else's mistake.
That's good. I think. Any comment or question from the floor? Okay. Is there microphones there?
I think that you were up here.
I think there is one there. Do you have a microphone there? Go ahead.
Yeah, it was an interesting topic since we have been here discussing yesterday about the BCM. I also believe the BCM is a journey. It is not a one-time activity. from the stakeholder perspective, it is not a CapEx, it is an OpEx also. Every year, some portion of money should be pumped in to make sure the BCM journey in an organization is continuously evolved, maintained, and improved. But the question is, right now the maturity is the ITDR, which is integral part of the BCP, BCM or BCP. To some extent, it is clearly understood by the stakeholders, maybe for a lot of reasons. But the other assets like people, process, the documentations, and safety hazards, all these things, how is that maturity? How much the stakeholders are able to understand? And it is not only the stakeholder responsibility, there has to be a commitment from an entire organization to keep updating on it. So what is the, because some of the companies have said they have successfully implemented the BCM, but the ongoing maintenance procedure, updating part, what is the maturity level, who is taking the ownership? And like ITDR, you can keep on testing it, but the other aspect of it, how do we maintain it? So I would like to get some kind of feedback from the people who have already done and already into that journey.
Okay. Anybody?
If you allow me. I think we took a different approach in the NCB Capital, okay, in regard to BCM. When we started this initiative, we looked to the entire governance of the standard operating procedure end-to-end for the entire company. This will help you to understand the entire business processes. And it's also, we set up like the change management and, you know, how frequent these, you know, standard operating procedure are, you know, updated. And we put some, you know, regulation about it. So it's become embedded within the organization. The second step, we took all these business processes and start the business impact analysis, which is the first step that we'll do in business continuity. Today, if you want to start a business continuity and you don't have a clear picture about the entire SOP within the company, how this company is operating, you can still get this exercise done, but it will not be effective, similar if you have a very clear picture about the entire processes within the company end-to-end. So the standard operating procedure or the business process management, it's aligned with the business continuity, because both of them is to ensure continuity of the processes. You need to know first what are the processes. In regard to the DR, a very important you know, thought here, which is when we started, it was the DR is completely under the IT. So there was no reporting line, you know, from the DR or IT to the business continuity. Then we decided with the senior management that DR should be a subset of the business continuity management, and there must be some reporting line, like, you know, the DR manager reporting to the CIO, he should be also reported to the head of the business continuity. And this will ensure that whatever happened within the IT, within, you know, the maintaining the IT is also, okay, aligned with the business continuity all the time.
Another thing to really look at is your standards and your policies. I know you touched upon it, but for example, your standards are really high level, say 30,000 feet. And what I've been doing in the past few companies I've worked at is then have a more detailed policy that's outlining what critical components that support the program, say for example, information technology or facilities, security, crisis management. We then have worked with internal audit to agree on a policy that really states if internal audit's going to go in and look at the program of your area, because I'm not responsible for making sure that IT is doing what they're doing. Again, I'm just providing the framework. But all three of us have agreed this is what you're going to be on the hook for from an internal audit perspective, as well as supporting the program as a whole. So it's another form of checks and balances that's going the full circle of supporting the program. And that's where I also say if you've got a new program that you're trying to get up and running, this is where I said yesterday, buy that cup of coffee with internal audit, because then if they're not doing what they need to do, ask internal audit to go audit them. And then they'll be required to do it because they've got audit findings.
Mm-hmm. Kush, you want to say something?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Very important aspect as well. This is a business continuity, okay? It is not like IT continuity or so our project. the latest, change we have made, okay, is to add the business continuity rule and responsibility part of the business head's job description.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
That's a good point. Yeah.
This was, pushed by the CEO. So now today, all senior management, okay, they do have role and responsibility, the business continuity as their part of the job. Okay. Yeah. So they realize this is for them. And I think this made our life is much easier, because I remember like 4 years ago, it was difficult to meet with the people. We are not on top of their list. Today, as soon as we send like the schedule, people show and they came and start being more committed. Thank you.
Just want to say one thing, that in business continuity, while you're trying to implement it in the organization, one is a compulsory aspect and one is the voluntary aspect. The compulsory aspect is what Khalid just mentioned, that you could have the aspect of some part of the responsibility being documented by way of on your KRA, while the second aspect of voluntary is where you're building the culture of BCM in the DNA of the organization. When I say DNA of the organization, it's a slow journey, but yet if the approach is right, when I say approach of the management, approach of the HR, approach of the IT, approach of the admin, the reason where I'm coming at is that when the stakeholders know that this is good for me and this is for my future, then in that case, your voluntary aspect will obviously will take instance where howsoever I may be busy on, but yet because it concerns my own future, my own family, I will ensure that required minimum few minutes of a BCM campaign or a BCM test or a HR tool relating to my awareness about BCM, I will respond to it.
Any other question or comment? Oh, okay, sorry.
One area just I wanted to benchmark was the internal audit. See, the internal audit is an independent activity that can be either done internally or it can be outsourced to third parties. For organizations such as eBay, they will have a huge internal audit team, so that will be an independent report. For smaller organizations, even though if you have an internal audit team, most of the times they will either act as a facilitator during the control self-assessments or they will be part of it. In some way, they will be interlinked. This creates a conflict of interest. So to measure your BCP plans, like for smaller organization, if your finances allow, and if you really want to show your mature practices, you can have it audited by an independent third-party provider and show how it's benchmarking against the global standards in the industry or the global organizations that are practices who have come out of successful disasters. For example, Bank of Muscat, which has come out from. So you can benchmark it and then take it forward. This is for smaller organizations. I just wanted. Thank you.
Any other question or comment? Yeah.
Yeah, excuse me. What do you think is the best way to do the BCM on a big organization like police?
If you want to address it to a specific one of the panels, go ahead.
Yeah, to all of them. Yeah. What do you think is the best way to implement BCM into big organization like police, which has over 40 departments, large departments? What do you think the best way is to implement it?
I think the first thing you need to do is to start, smooth awareness, okay, for the organization, which is like sending like some educational, email, newsletter, okay, small session. Just let the people know about BCM. Then second point, after like 3 months from doing this exercise, just start to, get to apply for the standard, the business continuity standard, and bring like a consultant to start help you to implement the standard, which is for the ISO now, for the BCM. Why? Because the business continuity standard will help you to keep sustainability of the entire program. Some people say, okay, we just want the certificate. If you just seek the certificate, you will get the certificate, but maybe after that, if you don't have like the ambition to, keep working to keep this, standard, then you will lose. Just it was a piece of paper, I mean, at the end of the day. But if you have the direction and the senior management, mindset that we need to keep, the standard and meet it all the time, then this will help you always to bring all these discussion, I mean, which is the internal audit will be derived by the standard, the governance will be derived by the standard, because the standard will give you exactly what are the gaps and what we should be, meeting in those,
But this, Khalid, will bring us to another challenge. You are absolutely right. I mean, the workshops, the trainings, the standards, the policies that you are disseminating, all these will definitely help raise the awareness of the organization. But still, as a BCM practitioner, you are facing challenge because, in my opinion, the BCM is not a day-to-day activity. So you bring people, then that's from experience. You bring people to workshops, and you give them a nice training, and they are so excited about BCM, and they go back to their day-to-day things, and they stand to have it in the back, until such a day that you need to wake them up or bring them to another, and that's the challenge, because he's not facing this in his day-to-day work. So what is the best method from your experience on saying, okay, I'll come to you, okay. On bringing BCM always on the desk of the employees to say BCM is part of my day-to-day. Although, as we know, it's only needed or executed during disasters, and you don't want to create disaster just to make people get excited for that. You want to say something there?
Yes, I hope it's not inappropriate because I'm not on the panel.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's open discussion.
It's hopefully helpful. One of the things I think that we often miss, so all of the people that come to work for me in my organizations, I have 3 consultancies, and one of the things that we train them in is project management, business continuity management, very obviously, but change management. And we use the ADKAR change model for changing perceptions and changing human behaviors. And it's ADKAR, which is awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and then reinforcement. And it's the same model that IBM used, that General Motors used, that Alcoholics Anonymous use, that many drug rehabilitation use. And so my colleague here from the police, and from other big organizations, when you want to try and implement business continuity within an organization, it's an organizational change. And that change has to be managed and led and driven quite aggressively sometimes. And so it's about, I would respectfully suggest, it's about trying to bring about that change. And so you need to start with an awareness campaign. You need to develop that critical mass of energy and desire, be it regulatory driven or anything else. You still have to get the departments to buy into this. So, great things that have been said from the panel about looking at the value add and things like that. But for many organizations that are still in the early stages of trying to implement business continuity or of trying to implement it across different sites and sub-companies, it's about creating that awareness, then desire, if you do it properly. If you do the awareness properly, you then develop a desire, then you give them the knowledge and you do the training and things like that. So it is a staged approach, and I think as business continuity professionals, we need to be aware of other disciplines, other management disciplines, and change management, I think, is a really, really helpful management discipline for us to understand about how do we make the business take this seriously. Because not every organization is a straightforward regulatory requirement to do this. That was all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I just, this one, what gentleman said, I just want to add one thing, that you cannot have a general recipe that, okay, this kind of an approach is good for this big size, this size operation, or this kind of operation is meant for this number of people. You see, the way you will design or you will manage your business continuity proliferation will depend largely on the way the organization operates. Now, for a process-oriented organization, irrespective of size, will be that it's best to have a documented process, documented procedures, proliferate it, and then drill it down. There are some organizations which are more people-oriented, where you have the kind of budgets to go in for, let people have training. You let people have you spend the amount of money on creating the awareness material by way of standees, by way of plasmas, by way of gifts, giveaways, whatever. So it generally is dependent on organization to organization how the cause of and the criticality of this function is built into the culture and DNA of the organization.
Okay.
I think this was a very good point, which is how do you keep the momentum going?
Yeah, and keep the BCM always in front.
And people engaged, okay, exactly. So all the time we keep posters in the building about BCM. Mm-hmm. We have the policy on the wall. We have some newsletter just, from time to time sent to the employee. Before the start of the year, okay, we send like a business continuity review schedule to everyone. So everyone expect and knew when we're going to do his business impact analysis, when we're going to do the risk assessment workshop, when we're going to do the business recovery procedure update, when we're going to do the testing, okay? So this is very important because we have so many business units, and unless you are organized and people are, flagging their calendar for that event or that activity, then it will be overwhelmed. So I think we take it quarter by quarter, and each quarter there will be some activities related to that quarter. Each month within that quarter will have some also activities. Each week of the month has some activities. So this way we keep people always engaged. We can also schedule being part of the business weekly meeting or monthly meeting. So you go and say, okay, this is your activity for like security division for the next 2 weeks. There is some point, maybe you answer it. So you keep just contributing, participating with the business, weekly meeting. Even to the board level, we do like twice a year a review and update. Take the opportunity also during the weekly SMT meeting, go and present some issues about BCM. Like for example, last issue we talked about the UBS. Okay, we did some assessment and we came and said, okay, we need to cover those function with UBS, and these are the analysis, these are the total costs. Okay, so either this was not part of the budget, either you approve it or you accept the risk. So this the way it is. BCM is became an integral part of any modern business. Okay, it's not just something nice to have.
Thank you.
And this is the way you can keep the momentum always going.
Yeah, Vinoth?
I think we tend to forget one fact. We are all students of life. We are learning on a day-to-day basis. House, probably we identify a person who clearly identifies the perceptions of a person, whether he's a slow learner or a fast learner, and then we design the training program according to them, because not everyone is the same. So the people first should be identified based on their learning capabilities, and then they should be trained according to that. I think everybody does this on a day-to-day basis, probably to your direct reportees or everybody, but we just tend to forget that small part in BCM. I think which would be useful for us in taking the awareness session to a greater level, is my suggestion.
Margaret, you have big organization, and the challenge maybe is more difficult for you and diverse in many, many countries.
Yes. And this is the first time I've worked for an organization that's not regulated, meaning, yes, we have one division, but the 39 others are not. So trying to say you need to do this because of this guideline doesn't sell as well. So I think it's also important to stop and look that you have two parts of your organization that you need to be on the lookout for of training and awareness. You have those that you already have as your points of contact in the departments. And I actually have tried to do the sell of, can we get this into people's performance reviews? And I get the look of like, well, that's not going to happen because they're already doing their day job. And when you go into the smaller offices, you might have a person that's performing 2 to 3 functions. And how big can their performance review become? So what we've gone and done is we've gone and looked at what we're calling our executive leader, which is, say, the person who's head of HR, then the person who's our coordinator, and then the individual planners. And so we've tried to identify various people within the departments, and we've written what we call job descriptions of what they need to do before, during, and after to support an incident. And some of that may be, for example, that the executive, if they have risks that come out of the BIA, that's their responsibility to then make sure that the funding gets into the next calendar year budget to mitigate those issues. And those people get more training because they are involved with our exercises. Excuse me. The ones that you need to really be worried about are the people that you don't work with as frequently. And I think that's also where you need to tie in to other parts of the organization and see if they can help champion the cause with you. Because, for example, if IT is doing a test and they're getting multiple users to help test the application, say it's not only a test because it's a new version, we're also testing this for continuity purposes, or ask HR to send out an email, say once every 6 months to remind people to update their critical numbers and things like that in the HR system, because we need to be more proactive of getting good data. And then the other thing is if you know that, hurricane season or tsunami season is coming, work with your safety and security to send out an announcement saying, hey, we know it's coming. This is what we should be doing to prepare for it. This is what all the employees need to do to ensure that they know what to do. So take those little steps along the way to ensure that all aspects of the organization are being covered.
Very good. Okay, that's beautiful ideas and suggestions. I'm sure that we can share and get benefit. Depends on each organization, of course, but they can pick up whatever suits them better to have the people aware. But again, I'm going to give you another challenge. Okay, the people are aware, they are excited, they have the plans, they have the standards, they have everything. But you want to validate. You want to assess their preparedness and their readiness. And normally, the best method to do it is exercising.
Yes.
I'm going to give you a story about a BCM manager who was given a job. And when he was given the job, first day, he went to the data center, and he switched off the power. And everybody thought he has something in his mind. No, he said, I want to test your readiness. Of course, he was fired the same day, but the company also went out of business the following week because they were not prepared at all for the continuity. So that's an extreme validation, which I don't think we should be in that position. At the same time, I don't think we should be very soft with the organization in terms of the testing. I mean, just sitting in nice discussion like this, and everybody brainstorm. Fine, the brainstorming is important to have the mental readiness, but the physical readiness where you want to see the organization, so in real situations, how do they respond? So the process is gradual and raising the bar. How far, how much you can raise the bar? It's, in our experience, every time we raise the bar, everybody say, but reality is different. But reality is more than this. So how do you, from your experience on this exercising, how do you manage the bar that fits the organization, that, yes, makes it more prepared, but at the same time, it's not too high that nobody can jump?
That's interesting. I think you need to take this gradually. Okay, the first thing or time you do an exercise, a test, which should be a functional testing. Okay, because you want to validate whether those critical functions and applications, when you move the team from the primary to the secondary or the hot site, you need them to make sure all applications are working. They are able to perform their activities from the secondary or the hot site, similar to what you do in the primary site. So this will take, could be 5, 6, 10 times until you align the IT resources, everything, make sure the application is replicated and you have access to the entire data, similar to what you do in the primary site. You raise the bar after that, then you start saying, okay, maybe the first time we'll take them in a bus, so everybody come, okay, then second time or third time you say, okay, everybody in real scenario, there will be no bus, okay, so you have to use your car, so people will come using their car, okay, to mobilize from the primary to the secondary. You need to be, it depends on the culture. I mean, you need to be flexible maybe at the beginning. And you start with some more conditions, or you become more, focus, from as you are moving forward. So I remember the first functional test, some people were not sure. Okay, so it's okay. You want to, it is like selling the idea. You don't want to go and fire them. Okay, no, but you need to go and, talk to them, try to show them why it is important. The second time, you will have maybe more people. The third time, I mean, after doing this for the last 4 years, I mean, it's rarely no one showing during the test. The test is very seriously taken. And after like 3 years, I got like, I think last time only one person, he just gave an excuse. He said, why should I do it? Then I went to the CEO and I said, you have to take
So you're taking the gradual
exactly
approach.
Decision now.
Yeah.
Then anyone who's doing something like this, he will be in the hot seat, I mean, in front of the CEO. So everybody now is committed. Nobody is trying to excuse or try. Sometimes some business, you don't want to take the risk. I mean, like you go and shut down. This doesn't make sense. But we go and make sure.
That's an extreme.
Always when we do something like this, okay, you have to be also business-wise. What I mean by business-wise, okay? I said, always when we send for testing, we said, look, you might go there and in the secondary side, things is not working. Yeah. So I don't want to lose the business. So I tell every unit, said, look, you should have a backup in the primary side. Our role is to go and test there. In case it's not working, then your backup still can perform work from them, because this is a test, yani.
Then you take it to the second run.
Exactly.
We have only 5 minutes, so I want to see if somebody wants to share and if there's any questions within, but please make it brief so we can
I just want
see
to add to what Khalid was mentioning is that, you see, once you have embarked on the journey of business continuity, the moment you make people realize the significance and relevance of the business impact analysis phase, where you are identifying that out of your 10 activities, what you do, these are the 2 or 3 critical activities which need to be done based on your parameters. When you have a financial impact, regulatory impact, legal impact, reputational impact, operational impact, it could be organization-specific parameter. Now, the moment you have these aspects drained into during the BIA phase itself, when people are aware as to what they're expected to resume in a situation of crisis. So they know that, okay, out of these 10 activities, only 3 activities are important, 3 critical resources which are there are significant. These are the 3 RTOs which I need to meet. IT knows these are the 3 applications I need to provide for. in the desired, in the required recovery time objectives or the MTPODs, then in that case, as a business practitioner, your work becomes far more easier in coordinating with the different businesses, because this buy-in comes from the businesses. So as a business continuity manager or an implementer, my job is primarily to act as a catalyst, act as a guide, act as you say, director in the movie. These are all your actors.
We're running out of time, Alex.
Yeah, just very important.
Just 1 minute, if we can give it to the guys and ask if there's a question. We can discuss after
the important, you said what the highest bar. I mean, we are forgetting to mention the highest bar is the crisis management.
Yeah, okay.
Which is very important.
1 minute.
So yesterday, one of the panelists asked who actually does test with your local authorities. And I'm sure all of you have realized that many states in the United States are near bankrupt. So I actually have been having conversations with the city of San Jose, and they basically have told me, you're on your own for 3 to 7 days. We will not be here to help you. We don't have enough resources. So I just raised this with all of you because your support from local authorities, depending on where your global footprint is, will vary. So I would recommend that maybe you have some discussions on your large offices with the local authorities to find out what kind of support you may or may not receive in a major incident.
No? Any last question? Okay.
Thank you. It's not a question, it's a comment. I think we left our friends' question kind of half answered back here about 40 departments and how do you start a program with 40. And I think each of the panelists have touched on a different aspect. I quite like the idea of looking at the departments as though they're children in a school class. And I think that amongst your 40 departments, you'll intuitively know which 3 of your departments are the most important before you've done any BIA. And at Qatar Airways, that's exactly what we did. We identified the 3 things that we knew would bring us to a standstill within an hour. So we started with that. On top of that, we did some of the things that Margaret has said about policy, about standards, about website, about awareness, the general things. But you can't do 40 things at once. You can't do 40 departments at once. So I think you have to choose the 3 star pupils. Then I think you might choose the 3 pupils who are most interested. And then you've got 6 departments that something is happening with. And by the time you've done 6, you can say to number 7 and number 8, look how well your fellow students are doing. Do you want to come on this journey as well? I think where I've failed in the past is trying to do 40 at one time, and I can't show any progress with any of them because it's too much work. I think another thing, if you're in an organisation that's starting it from an immature level, I think you have to be prepared to do a lot of the work yourself because they just don't know how to do it. They will know in time, and you can teach them in time. But to start with, I think Mahmoud and I are doing much more holding of hands than we want to be doing in a year. But to get the journey started, we need to help the children come with us. And then after a year, they'll be grown up. And they can do it themselves. But at the moment, we're holding a lot of hands and doing a lot of picking up off the floor as they come. So I like that analogy. Thank you.
And I echo what Chris says about when you're starting something new, you do need to hold their hands, and you probably need to do the interviewing because you can write the best documentation on how to fill out something, and you can say call and email and hold training classes, but nobody's going to ask questions because they don't understand it. It's a whole new vocabulary for them. And the other thing to keep in mind is you're probably going to have a few versions of your standard because, for example, when you first start to write it, you can't say all. You need to just then, because that means everything within the organization. So you might need to start off with critical and change the wording along the way as you continue to mature your program.
Well, I think we are running out of time. Devraj is looking at the stage. I would like to thank all the participants in the panel for sharing their experience. Thank you, guys, for making this interactive session. I'm sure that we will come out of this think about the ideas and see if it's applicable that we can implement. Thank you very much.